Yes, do you mind? Meeting of the Preservation Board is now in order. Welcome to everybody. I'm going to call a roll. Here. Commissioner Vincent-Taylor, are you here?
Yes, I am.
Oh, Commissioner Johnson, are you here?
Yes.
Commissioner Wright, are you here?
Yes.
Mr. Commissioner. Okay. There are 4 commissioners present. Commissioners, has anybody read the minutes from the May 18th meeting?
I am.
With a motion to make in that regard?
I'd like to move that we approve the minutes. Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor for approving our minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, then our minutes are approved. Commissioners, looking at the agenda for today, does anyone see any reason why he or she could not sit through all of these? Okay. Good enough then. Is the order of them okay with everybody? Then, hearing no objections at all to this agenda, the agenda we're going to try to follow, calling 519 to 529 to pair.
Good afternoon, Commissioners and everyone. I'm Betsy Bradley, Director of the Cultural Resources Office. And this is agenda item A, the construction of 4 townhouses on this property. Shown here at the corner of Washington and Washington Boulevard and Fair Avenue. On the side of the tree has Monument Bank, always on that. And here is the site and here addresses design of the project. There's another view showing it at the end of a row of pretty typical buildings for this part of the Kingdom Development Historic District. Draw your attention to that 3-story small apartment building there right adjacent to it, and then there's single-family houses on both sides of that street as they get further down in the next intersection with this Morris house. Small apartment building. Here's some views of the single-family house. A view of the lot there, in the lot, and showing the footprint from the there. The historic district goes across Fair Avenue and onto the east, so you get the perspective. Here is the rendering of the proposed townhouses. The view facing Fair Avenue. You can see there 3 of them that on the south end of the project that are identical. The northern one is a little bit whiter and has there. The site plan shows the 4 townhouses. And you see they have a shared driveway in the back, and there are garages access on that driveway that's on the ground floor. Here's elevation. Materials are called out here. What looks like brick, would be brick, red color, along the ground story and foundation level and the stair tower that rises above the roof line and gives access to the top deck. You see the deck, you see the front balconies, you see rear balconies. These are the private outdoor spaces provided to these units during our backyard and the structure is small. The tan color are just the cement or panels. What's a little bit harder to see the surrounding, the windows. You can see proposed substance for siding. Balconies will be environmental steel and have mesh panels closing them, and there'll be some steel tube columns towards the corner of the balcony. Windows would be casement 6. Here's a view of the north elevation. Shows the front balconies, shows kind of alignment of the rooftop access stair towers, which you never really see them quite like this contrasting drawing. Rear elevation that shows those garages, garages stuck under and rear balcony, and similar views of south. Those panels come around on the side there. There in the view. So we'll leave this view up here as we talk about the proposed design. Senior developer, historic district standards, have residential appearance standards, and standards for existing buildings and new construction. And the overall intent here is to provide visual compatibility. There is no reference to traditional or contemporary design. The height is the number of 15%, within 50% of the average height of the existing buildings on the block is used to provide that compatibility. Little range for variance. Three-story buildings are comparable in height to that three-story apartment building either on the right. The growth stair access element and pergolas that would be not nearly as visible as presented in this view, but it might be visible further away from the building. Probably above that 50%. The main room general height of buildings in the district. This location across the end of the block and the type of buildings proposed make it very difficult to use the standards for locations, spacing, and setbacks, or written for the expectation of a single infill residential building. So we don't have a lot of visual compatibility in that regard. On the other hand, I don't think it is something quite different than what's there now, but I don't think it's so taking this project and presented. We get to exterior materials. I would say partly applies. The standards acknowledge that a variety of materials exist in the district, but this use of many materials on a single building, group of buildings, is not a pattern that we find in the cost of this color brick or that color brick. Occasionally we see gambrel roof building and there's a table face with something half timbery that gives a two-material feeling for that building, but generally we have one very dominant building inside Therefore, the number of materials, contrasting colors, and color blocking aren't really very compatible or grounded in the district. That's why I have recommended some further study of the materials and colors to make the project appear as having one dominant material on the facade as a characteristic of the house and apartment. Again, the details aren't really very consistent with the historic details. When we have contemporary design, we find that is the roof shape with flat roof are very common in the district. Roof material is not visible, so that's not an issue. Project adheres to the building line on the side where the proposed that line driveway area back would be aligned with the building. So overall, we find that this kind of project that can be seen and repeatable under historic district, contemporary scale, siding, design, materials, and provision of amenities. Standards clearly express an expectation of compatibility that exists in contemporary design. I think that this project could be more visually compatible given further study of materials and colors, and provide that for and so that is my recommendation, is approval of the concept, but requires some further study of the colors of the church. I have received 4 letters of support. I don't contest them. If you want to look at a little more detail. We have letters from Alderwoman Cruzen, who states she supports the project. The Inca Devolver Community Council, the largest entity there, supports the project as proposed. The Council Residential Committee supports the project, and the Historic District Committee supports the project. And I would point out that one of the proposals refers to the historic standards. So we are allowed to apply those standards, which I think we can do as we look at it. So that is all I have, and my recommendation.
You've led us on several meditations over the years on integrating contemporary design into historic districts. You like this?
I like it. I like the idea. But all that study that I've done is kind of zeroed in on the use of color and color blocking. And it's very analogous to the fashion world. There are times when color blocking is really popular, and it's popular in architecture right now. I think a lot of use of that will really date these built this project at a very certain time. I think that having more unified facade, even with the variety of materials, is easy, relatively easy tweak that brings the project much more compatibility. And so I think that materials will kind of come down to all sorts of things. A lot of these projects are hinge on materials.
Commissioner, questions? Okay. Who's here for the applicant? Okay, come on up.
Good afternoon. Larry Banky, staff for Skinker Devolver Community Housing Corporation. And as you heard, there's significant neighborhood support for the project. And I guess I would say that the project does not conform in many of the details of what we expect in our neighborhood. We offered other types of elevations to the neighborhood that were more consistent with that, and they were not widely accepted. Maybe it's because we were trying to fit something old on a new spot in the neighborhood. It's hard to say. I also have documents of the street and some of the actual streetscape to share with you, because this is in an area that has been, well, this particular lot has been green space for 25 years. We tore down 8 units of one-story buildings there years ago. We started looking at this about a year and a half ago, played with design, played with discussions with the neighborhood, primarily because the neighborhood has changed its plan, whereas this north end of De Pere called for green space predominantly for years. It is now requesting that construction be on all of the vacant lots up here. There's no buildings to either side of this one. It's always the end of the street. This was a commercial street historically. In fact, as the site across the alley from the project was a gas station. We sort of do expect this street to look a little different than our core of our neighborhood. I'm here to answer any questions you might have. Design Alliance is here to do the same, so.
I'll ask the first one.
All right.
How open are you to listening to any concerns about color materials?
We are open. I'm not sure exactly what it would come up to. We have a variety of colors in the neighborhood, although we are predominantly brick. Some buildings are 50-50 front facade brick and stucco, but we are open to that discussion.
I think she has testified that she likes the project. I'm relatively certain from the vibrations back here that we like the project. The question turns on if we gave preliminary approval, subject to working with her, if we were consigning you to some terrible hell, or...
I haven't found working with her is problematic. I would think we could find things that work for both of us in the neighborhood. If not, I assume we might end up back here, but the intention would be to work it out with staff.
Commissioners, understand? Questions? questions or comments?
Making the comment that color blocking is historically an architecture. So while that might date the building this period of time, Mr. Robinson, what I needed to share that.
That's because Mr. Robinson has never actually put a color in one of his buildings.
You know, I disagree with that statement. You believe I have used color.
Oh, sure. Some of the sod has been green.
Well, that's true.
Down on this end? Comments, questions?
I agree.
Alderman, you want a minute to take a look at the project? We are.
So as a resident of the neighborhood, I actually appreciate a little bit of diversity in the type of housing stock that's being offered. In fact, there are a couple of other examples within the neighborhood on, I believe it's the 5900 block of Pershing. I think that's it, maybe the 6000 block, where you've got a completely contemporary home that doesn't really conform to any other homes within the neighborhood, yet it fits in quite nicely with the way that the neighborhood with some of the other new construction that exists within the neighborhood. On the 5700 block, there's also a new home that will be built within the next 6 months that's going to be much different than what's currently there. So I think that as we're filling in some of these missing teeth, not only in Skinkard of Oliver, but in some of our other historic neighborhoods in the city, it's nice to take advantage of the opportunity to create something that may be a little bit different than what historically exists there.
Is there a motion?
Yes, I recommend preliminary approval for the proposed construction with conditions that the proposed materials be that Gary work with staff to come to an agreement on materials and colors.
Is there a second? Okay. Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Commissioners, I note, since we took the roll, the presence of Commissioner Robinson and Commissioner Alderman Terry Kennedy, which constitutes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 aldermen, 6 commissioners present at quorum. That's handy because we are now reconvening as an administrative board to hear appeals of director and staff denial. From now on, in order to keep a record, we will ask you to identify yourself, give your address, and tell us that you're going to tell the truth. The first appeal that we will consider is 4711 Westminster Place. What are you howling on? What is that? I'm sorry. How long?
I've been on for
How long more?
hopefully 4711 Westminster Place. I'm Andrea Gagan, resource officer for Public Truth. Enter into record ordinance 4689 and English ordinance 69423 Washington. There's a ordinance on the agenda. Is any questions? Wall is partially stripped. The applicant applied for a building permit to application to obtain and finish a concrete block retaining wall, approximately 2 feet tight from the building line and 4711 West Street. and construct a slightly lower one, approximately 1 foot, wall at sidewalk. It would be a 2-tier, retaining wall. At the start of the rear tier of the retaining wall without a permit, the study came into apply for a permit. The application was denied, and the retaining wall did not meet the denial. This is a photograph of previous conditions at the property. It appears to us that it was mainly, really not really a wall, more like they lit too much late brick into the terrace to pull back the dirt. So obviously, it had been somewhat altered to begin with. But this is the shot of the retaining wall, the back of the retaining wall is constructed. I believe cast that go on top of that wall. And then there's a second retaining wall. So this is, looks like it'll be not how to be the height of the retaining wall at the sidewalk. The landscape wall does not, or retaining wall does not comply as the original terrace has been altered. The new concrete block retaining wall is installed in second proposed. Both the new retaining wall and material are prohibited at the standard. And I would have a letter from applicant stating their reasons for the wall. And I also have a letter from the West End Association, and basically their discussion was, the committee concluded the precast blocks are not compatible with historic material characteristic of the district, but gives the pre-existing conditions petitioners should be offered two alternatives. Either remove the recently installed blocks and restore the original slope terrace as existed west of the walk, or to remove the recently installed blocks and replace the previously existing walls with materials such as brick. As stated, the retaining wall was constructed without a permit. The concrete block is basically specifically considered as a historic standard. And it is changed that now, as you can see, there is an older brick retaining wall next door to them, which time ago. The wall is highly visible and constructed with decorative concrete blocks, and because of that, the Cultural Resources Office asked and recommended the Preservation Board hold the director's denial of the application not applied to the question.
Question, Commissioner Fontesette?
You're saying this is the shorter, older retaining wall that is next to it?
This is the neighbor, is on the neighbor's property. And that's been there, it looks like.
Right. So that would not also be the standard area to be constructed?
Probably not. If it was altering the slope, it wouldn't, because if the slope hasn't been altered, then you're not really allowed to alter the slope. If there was a retaining wall before, you can replace it with something, but you can't. So it depends on what the previous condition of that property was to be allowed. It's not, probably wouldn't be allowed in that configuration because it's a cap.
Commissioners on this side? If you're the appellant's present,
Yes,
okay, arrange your presentation any way you want.
thank you.
Just begin by telling us your name and address.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay? My name is Annette Appel, and I am one of the owners of 4711 Westminster Place. Oh, right, from the television?
Perfect. That will hold all day.
I'm I'm Cheryl Tatum, the other owner of the property, and I live in Hill Street.
Okay, that's going to last till midnight.
Pardon me?
You'll be telling the truth till midnight.
Yes.
Till midnight.
And beyond. Thank you. So we have basically a hardship and a justice issue with regard to this wall. First of all, and you have our letter, and I hope explains sort of what happened and what our thinking was and what our level of ignorance was. And we're hoping that, or just to say, we'll grant the variance in this case. We've already spent, so the hardship is that we've already spent over $1,500 on this wall, which we thought was going to be an improvement to our neighborhood, in which actually our neighbors are very happy with, and unfortunately there's, I guess, the one neighbor who's not, who's commented to the city. So we spent over $1,500 on this project, and we're better than halfway through the project. And by the way, just so you know, doesn't really matter, but the height of each wall is a little lower than it was reported to be authentic, but just by a couple of inches. So anyway, it's a big amount of money to have in there, and it would be like, if we did not finish this, it would be like burning over $1,500, and we're certainly comfortable, but it's a lot of money, and it's also, we both each have aging mothers, 91 and 85, living in Chicago, who we help support financially and through caregiving. Yeah, so no one wants to go into that, certainly. It's one of our concerns. Also, a little bit of an issue, and this isn't really a legal argument, but that we really didn't have notice. I mean, technically we had notice because there are laws, and we now know that there's this ordinance, these codes basically up on the website and probably in the library. But we really didn't know about this. And in keeping with the character of the neighborhood, we took our ideas from what was already in the neighborhood. So we really didn't have note. We thought we were just being consistent with what was in the neighborhood, because those now, which I now know are Versalock blocks, and they're concrete, right? So those are things that we find. Actually, when we bought our house, we had, and we still have it, a Versalock wall right in the front yard. And we've gone up and down, it's in our letter, just seeing about 4 blocks or something of our 3 or 4 blocks on Westminster and on McPherson, and we could look through the Central West End and see even more of this, but many, many houses have those blocks. And that's where we got our idea from. So in terms of keeping with the neighborhood aesthetic, it's quite common. I think we counted at some point, just on 4 blocks, over 50 houses that are, are not consistent with the slope, which we learned about recently too, and the prohibition on Versalock wall. So I'm concerned about that. And also, when we purchased the house, we didn't know. I guess we knew it was an older historical area. It was something that sort of drew us to the neighborhood. But we didn't know that it was regulated in such a way, and we didn't know that there were aesthetic rules about our front yard. And what's interesting too is we were since we came to the community, members of the Central West End Association. Cheryl was on the board of the Central West Association, and yet she didn't know about them. We've lived here now after 6 years?
Since 2008.
Since 2008, I'm at the time. So We didn't know that. And so, that is our neighbors. Our neighbors are shocked, and our neighbors are just, those who talk to us, which are many of them, are very happy with what we're doing and think it's a beautiful addition. So that's of concern. That we got so far into this, and then found out about this, about the fact that we couldn't do that, even though there are so many homes in the central West End that have those. And also even that slow too, there's sort of slow with architectural properties and all that. And now we of course, have seen those are disrupted. There's a lot of them. There might be much many more of those than there are houses with the Versalillic things. But the incline, or the decline, I suppose, is something that seems to be characteristic. So anyway, I think I noted that there's over 50 offending homes now just on the 4 blocks. So I'm personally concerned about our finances and our lawn and our, what the cost that we just put into this. But I also I'm concerned about the sort of unfairness about the selective enforcing of rules, right? So I understand that there's four I don't know, building inspectors people. So, and they don't roam around the streets, there's not the resources for that. But it does seem that it's very almost un-American to be punishing, this neighbor, right? And then this neighbor has the same thing and it's fine. So I think that that's very troubling. And it seems like it's very random in terms of upholding the law. And I think that, again, I'm actually a lawyer and a law professor, and I find that troubling as a democratic matter in this society and in our community. And so I think the failure to enforce these historic standards, I'm not suggesting that anybody goes out to these other buildings, other homes with the offending materials, but, I'm saying that I don't want that to happen.
Actually, I was going to ask those addresses.
I will not give those to you, but I have them.
You have them.
I just listen to my neighbors, but I'm not going to do those.
Right, we don't do that. Our thing is that, like Annette said, is that we went around and that's how we got ideas and we saw the materials that they were using. So if we would have known, that we weren't, well, first of all, we didn't know we needed a permit. So, excuse our ignorance for that. And also that the Versalillic, which we learned the name of those, were not allowed, or that we never would have gone ahead with this project. So, and the reason why we did go ahead with it, because like Andrea said, is that because I was one of the laborers on the job, is that the brick was just laid in dirt. So that's why it was concaving, and then, I know you can't see it, but, there was a slight slope, but then there was horizontal brick in front of it. Yeah, that was just the same thing, so, that's why we thought, okay, we were just always having to deal with dirt anytime it rained or snowed or whatever, the sidewalk being a mess because the stuff would just wash out onto the sidewalk. So, like Annette said, we have a lot of our neighbors, because of where we live, would come by and say, it looks great, and we just wish that if someone did have a problem with it or knew that what we were doing was not allowed, that they would have shared that information with us, and we would have stopped the project, or we wouldn't have gone this far. So,
Professor, let me see if I heard that testimony correctly. Was it testimony I just heard that you do not believe that you have altered the slope because there was a wall there already?
Yes. Yes.
Commissioner, is there anything else to your presentation?
No, thank you, except to say, thank you.
yes, thank you.
Understood.
Commission's questions?
So I live in the neighborhood, five blocks down from one block over.
His entire house is built of this material.
You're the first one.
That's right. So my concern is, while I am a commissioner on the Preservation Board today, I was not at the time that I designed and built my house. And so my concern will come forward something like this is that when I purchased my property, I did my due diligence about finding out about the neighborhood and what I could and could not do in the neighborhood. So that as I for my project, I didn't find myself. So I guess I'm curious that like you guys have been here since 2008, 7 years, and in 7 years not realized that this was a historic.
No, we knew it was a historic district. We didn't know that we hadn't really thought it through much because there was the house, but that there were, we know a little bit about this, maybe you have, window requirements and things like that and whatever, but we couldn't imagine that it went to the slope of our yard and that it just didn't occur to us and because there's so much of that first block, whatever, it wouldn't occur to us it wasn't okay because that part is pervasive. So, it is embarrassing for me though to be someone who's law trained and didn't think to look at a city code. I lived in 4 different states and owned 3 homes, I guess, and frankly, I don't look at the building codes because usually if we do something, it's a big thing, and there's someone who comes and they know what to do, and that's not my expertise.
Sure. And so the other, probably just in a question, but the other issue is that not knowing exactly when the other projects were done, it's quite possible that they were done prior to historic districting, and in some cases there are projects that are done pre-historic district, and so they are grandfathered in until there's a change made, and at that point then they have to meet the current requirements. So using an example of something that was done previously doesn't necessarily mean that is what our current code.
I understand that completely. I understand that. That's where I sort of get concerned about.
And so
it's why it just didn't occur to us because there's so much of that. I just don't know what to say. If I had known, we wouldn't have done it. Right? We would have done something else. But we're here now, $100, into this thing that is going to, it could just burn it in the front yard if we can't have it. And I will say this one doesn't help at all. It's not at all. It doesn't concern the architectural, norms. But it's hostas. You won't really see the walls because we teach hostas, but we took them out to do the walls, so you could otherwise build with them. So they would be seen. I don't think it's going to really help much for vegetation. Exactly.
Have you seen what the Central Association has proposed?
We just saw it
today, yeah.
Right before we got here, or right when we got here, is when we got, a copy of the last.
So the lower wall is, you're proposing that to the neighbor's wall.
It would be, in terms of the height, might be a little bit lower than that. I don't know, actually.
Yeah, I don't know the height of theirs, but yeah, it would probably be maybe
Could be
lower.
with a more consistent line through.
Because none of the slopes are same, right? You know, like, next door, the slope may be less gradual, so it's just, deeper, so.
Question for staff. Okay, so now I'm sort of, are there two retaining walls going up here?
Yes.
There is two
One in
retaining.
front, one at that where Mr. Old is.
Yeah, it's not that.
But it's not structured yet, that's
Right.
Let me show you. Come back. Behind it, there's the back wall.
What's behind that red?
It's secondary wall, be lower. The front of the sidewalk will be a secondary wall, it'll be lower than the first.
Just high enough to keep the junk off of the sidewalk.
Right.
So that's down.
The part of the show was there before though, it was no wall, there was laid against the slope, first wall. Yeah, the paving was laid against the slope. Right. It wasn't an actual wall. The slope there was laid against it. Right. So it was so tall.
Did you do air quotes for the wall?
Sure did. No, that's, you didn't.
Okay. Is there a big wall guy?
Personally, I like walls, but,
Another back. I'm sorry.
You said before you built it, you got the idea from other walls like this, you said in the neighborhood?
Oh, my God, yes.
And had you considered something else before doing that?
No, we run and we walk and we go, and so we're always walking up and down the streets, and there's, with their house, you go to the county, whatever the count is, quite a few homes that have this.
And to be consistent, that's what we thought. Okay, well, they have it, and it looks really nice, and it seems like it's containing the dirt from going onto the sidewalk, and...
Weeds,
Right.
So the chairs, I saw the chairs, I know what we're trying to do there, it's just...
So...
Hey.
Sure you don't want to give the address?
No. No.
The mom,
Oh, I mean, I've watched it all the time.
Wait, it's not your house, it's a house.
What's your thing?
My house does not have retaining walls.
Of course not.
There's no reason to have retaining walls.
Anything else?
No.
That, anything else? Okay, this recommendation is reached.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Wright, the motion.
I'm sort of torn, I can see. I don't know,
Mr. Bittentinger, Mike Wall.
I move that we uphold the director's denial of retaining walls not comply with West County Code District standards.
Second. Have now heard second. Discussion? Yes.
Can I ask a question? Okay. When we're looking for the current,
Well, 2 years ago, probably the past 2 years. What's that? Oh, the current standard. Yeah, but the previous standard still spoke to the retaining wall.
It had to be the right kind of materials that matches for material.
Yeah, so that was...
but it didn't deal with the flow.
Yeah, that did it. The retaining walls were always...
Yeah, January of 2013 is when the new one
Is when the new one came out, but even though...
That was not a new thought, is it?
Yeah, but that particular portion of But even if there wasn't, there had been a I'm sorry, so Commissioner Wright was asking, I guess, make the point that both walls need brick, but my understanding is that really, especially given the slope, you would only have perhaps one retaining wall if there was a reason for a retaining wall.
And without a terrible lot of conviction, the actual words of the ordinance lend a certain way to their life. In that, given that there has been a wall, therefore, its replacement is envisioned, although it is also encouraged, not mandated, but encouraged to replace the original flood. They have chosen not to do that, and instead have proposed this double wall system.
Here.
Yeah. I'd argue that the front wall that they proposed is compatible with the ordinance with the wall that's necessary. And if it's not even built yet, it could be made to be even extra compatible with that. And it's the back block wall that sticks out like a brick door thumb. So,
both walls are considered for the one block.
okay, but we're brick.
Okay.
Did we lose the director? No.
You're doing a lot of proposing.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm actually speaking right past you, Aaron. Okay. Because I've got a common sense commissioner sitting next to me. I'm skipping right over here and talking to him.
Okay, well, I'll step back for
What about understanding? Yes, sir.
Well, I do have one question. At what height does construction become a retaining wall? And the reason I'm asking is, if somebody came along on the back of the sidewalk and just set a vertical sticking up 3 or 4 inches behind it, created a difference with that?
We distinguish between the curb, something that's kind of curb height, the acre, and a wall is, I mean, you can't really come down to exact number of inches, but curb, I mean, most people do manage the edge of the sidewalk with vegetation. So common to be skeptical in that situation. Curb, we don't regulate. If someone really wants to outline their, further up in a yard, wants to outline a flower bed, something curb height, we don't consider that a wall.
Further discussion, commissioners? Okay, hearing none. There is a motion on the floor. It's been made and seconded. The motion is to uphold the staff denial. I'm going to call a roll. Alderman Kennedy, do you vote yes or no? Commissioner Wright, do you vote yes or no? Commissioner Johnson, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Byzantine, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Robinson, do you vote yes? Now I'm really sorry that I skipped over you. Commissioner Robinson, do you vote yes or no?
I get the last chance.
You do.
Yes.
3 yeses, 2 noes, staff denial is upheld. Commissioners, let me take a 5-minute break.
No, well, it's right around here.
Okay.
Yeah. But apparently
Wow. There's no gas, too. It's like, it's shocking.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, Daddy? Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think it was just an all party.
Yeah, no.
They did. I was in like South Park. And we did the drive, I was at school, and they just finished down. By the time I got back, I knew it was 3 I felt really bad about it, too.
A lot of mud. Yeah. I was considering walk from there.
Oh, yeah, she would have to speak again.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know, we should call her another call.
Yeah.
Maybe have lunch or something.
So it's not like we can all do it. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure she's ready. Okay, it's a Lyra, it's a little, it's money anymore.
One guy that made his way before me, but there were about a dozen of them, so the rest of Yes. I'm angry now.
I got that nice as I came out.
Yeah, I got it, because I didn't pay for the work at all today. You're back to 1,000 today.
I think they should be good about it.
These chairs should have to go sleep. They're what? I'm sorry. Uncomfortable. Yeah, I agree. They're not the best for comfort. They look nice, but...
I mean, it's really nice. Yeah.
do it for a little while.
Yeah.
And simple. She was on the board.
She was?
Yeah. Cheryl.
Oh, well,
Board member.
yeah, there's nothing more to say. Yeah. That was just like...
Yeah, everything's good. Life is good.
Did you ever get hot today?
I did. I had spent time with my dad. Smoked a car, all that with my dad.
Did you just say
No.
Okay.
Some ribs.
Me and Dad, oh.
Yeah.
Not Colorado.
I didn't get that.
We were on the same page. Something else was food on your mind.
I think that will ultimately pass.
I guess somebody from that area wants to say it's unbelievable. And I think those that are from
John, are you ready to go back on record? The meeting of the Preservation Board is back in order. And I'd like to call agenda item C2054A.
We found that the type neighborhood organization has not received notification of this, and they would like to have a chance to review this project. They were respectfully asking for it.
The appellant present? Here, yes. Do you want to wait for their presentation?
It is her decision.
Good.
Well, I don't get the usual request for that. Can be accommodated or not, or
Okay.
the profession.
The appellant would like you to be able to tell her today, the neighborhood association, which was not notified, will write a decision first. Normally, I'd ask the appellant who has prepared for today, to expect a decision today. If certainly go up. Anybody has a compelling interest in deferring the decision or deferring consideration? Okay. The staff support that request, by the way? Or does the staff just pass along the request?
Just passing along the request from, you were not aware of it, so
I do not believe we have consensus to defer a decision or the consideration, so let's proceed.
I'm Andrea Dean, I'm Fresh Lottery. And for record, ordinance 64689, the Edmonton ordinance, and ordinance 67901, the Heights Historic District ordinance. And PowerPoint is 2054 Ann Avenue. Constructing a low fence in front of the owner initially inquired about applying for a fence at the resource hotspot desk. The owner was told that permit would not be issued to the counter because it's what he was proposing to do didn't really meet restricted standards. The owner at the time did not apply for a permit, and the owner next door at the commercial area was also wanting to construct similar fence along property, and its commercial property required, his property required steel drawing. I sent them over. Later, Cultural Resource Office received a complaint that about a fence being constructed without a permit at the address, a Stockville Service Place, and the owner began to apply for a permit. The applicant decided that it did not construct. It did not comply at the low fence. The construction of the fence was not based on appropriate model samples. Based it sort of on a wall that was constructed in Benton Park, but that was not in front of the building line. It was a high fence set back on the side yard. So it didn't have the same rules that low fence in front of the building line would have. And this doesn't really mimic that exactly. The one and the other had a Roblestone base. The fence would introduce non-traditional combination stone for masonry. Stone-based materials would function as a retaining wall. Combination of masonry piers and iron railings for low fence. So all iron fence model things make the fence have more of a presence to take away from the historic building. The prominent fence. Basically, what they would propose is there will be one here, there, there's here, and there'll be iron fencing. Highly visible and not based on model example. Model examples need to be stored slow, fence, likely as all iron one in front of a building of a similar age. Fence varies considerably from the model example. And because that Conservation Board is uphold direct denial of the application.
Commissioners on this side questions? Commissioners on this side questions? Thank you. You calling for that? Yes.
I've got a couple of letters of support. Okay,
let's start with your record.
Okay.
Your name.
Mitchell Munson, address is 2054 Ann.
Is your testimony going to be the truth?
100%, yes.
Do you have any material that you'd like to do this into the record?
Yes.
Okay, pass that to Donna, please. Okay. That's all the housekeeping I got. Now
yes, simple, no problem. Okay, so as Andrea said, I've lived there before it was a historic district, I believe it was 2005 or 6, in McKinley Heights. So it was kind of a free-for-all, which is why when I purchased it with a chain link fence. The property next door, 2058, which we tried to go in conjunction, also had a nasty chain link fence that was falling down. So for years I've been wanting to do something, but didn't quite know what. When the neighbor moved in next door, he's like, I'm interested in doing a fence, and I'm like, okay, great. So we drove neighborhoods, talked about material, some ideas. So we went and bought 3 pallets of brick and a bunch of wrought iron. It was recycled. Everything's used of the time. And I'm like, okay, that should be good. My other neighbor, Andrew, is like, you should probably go down to the CRO office before you do to get the permit, because they usually can approve the fence.
Which one, Andrew?
Andrew's there.
Good man.
Yeah, he's like, they can usually approve it on the spot. And I'm like, okay, so then that's when we went in and spoke with Andrea. Originally, we're going to do all brick, everything, which is why I got 3 pallets of it. She's like, no, if you want to do this, it's going to need to be limestone and in between the columns. I'm not quite sure if it's going to work. And there was questions about 2058, about the architecture drawing next door. So that being said, I was like, I work out of town. I'm usually here a couple days a week. So I had to plan a month and ahead just to get the day off. So I took a week off. I had a 10-day stretch to do this fence. And since his architecture drawing was going to hold it up, I'm like, I'm just going to go ahead and start because I don't have time to wait. And that's 100% my fault. So please, I don't want that to weigh on his building next door. When Bob came out and stopped me on Monday, I immediately stopped. It still sits just like that, and submitted my permit that afternoon, excluding the building next door because we were still waiting on the drawings, which I then got a phone call from zoning and found out it is classified residential, so I don't think it needs the architectural drawings anymore. So anyway, I talked to Bob, another call to Andrea, and I'm like, what can I do to make changes to make this fence happen? Do you want something different on the front of the base? Different columns? Give me some kind of input of what I can do to make this historic, because I still think that this is going to be good for the block to really stamp the whole corner. This is going to go down to the corner if we can continue the project over to the next building. So that was what led me here today. And I just got my denial packet today, so I'm just now trying to rehash what the exact denial parts are. And I'm just here to plead a variance, and please allow me to work with them and figure out exactly what I need to do to get this fence built, because now I have to stand outside with my dog. I can't let him run. And that's really, I would like to have a fence back. If it was up to me, I would probably never go through any of this again and just have the chain link. So I'm a few $1,000s into this project, which is a little bit of an issue for me, but I just appreciate your support on a variance.
And what would the grounds of the variance be?
I don't even know what that, I don't know. I don't know what a good option that is. I'm just new to this variance, so. Please don't let me waste my time. I've spent a lot of work on that, and I'm literally a day from finishing it, so it would be nice to be able to complete the project and maybe see it come to fruition.
Appeal to time. An appeal to time.
Please, so that I don't have any. Thank you.
Questions for the appellant? Ethan Meyer.
My name is Ethan Meyer. 2058 A.
It's going to be the truth.
Nothing but.
It's going to stick with you at least till midnight.
Correct.
Okay.
I do live next door.
Which side?
Actually, that's my truck in the picture, so that side. Our example fence we used was actually my father's fence on my father's building in Benton Park. Before starting any construction, we did go into the department and to check with things. I thought my building was commercial. I found out later it's residential. We went ahead and started on his side, and are willing to do anything to not have to start over.
It's as if we're listening into the future for the day when 2056
I think he's got a letter there for me to support, and he wanted me to continue it, but I wouldn't pay for it.
Mr. Senator, comment? Okay, thank you very much. That completes the testimony in this matter. Anything you forgot to add or would like to add now? Is there anything you'd like to add?
I don't think that it's doing all to the I think I told them earlier how they brick iron fence on top of it.
I think I heard the sensitive words as he repeated them. Yeah. Okay. Commissioner Wall, you got a motion? That's you, Dave. You have a motion on that?
No, I'm still thinking about this.
No. He doesn't have a motion.
Right, yeah.
You have a motion?
Sure.
Guarantee that's the best part about what you
Move that the Preservation Board uphold the director's denial if this does not comply with the Heights standards.
Do I second?
Wait. What?
Yeah. And a second. There's discussion.
Karen. Yeah, I think this is pretty simple. Doesn't apply sort of a hybrid retaining wall and fence. And so at this point, a retaining wall, this retaining wall doesn't apply. Yeah, I mean, right now it's a hybrid.
All examples are tricky things. But, permit, yes.
And there's a lot of examples.
Okay, commissioners, with the motion on the floor, made, seconded, and discussed. Commissioner Brown, did you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Byzantine, did you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Wright, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Alderman Kennedy? Yes. 5 yeses, staff denial is upheld. This hearing continues, and we call agenda item D, 4046, 4H, and
Staff, tell the truth. I need to enter in my PowerPoint agenda, ordinance 59400 with the Shaw, also the 64689 enabling ordinance. Okay, so what we have here is a complaint received about store replacement at the address. As you see here, the store was without a building permit. Got a complaint from CSB. Went out, saw there was obviously a non-compliant door. Cited the owner, owner then came into apply for a permit to retain that door and replace the other 4 doors. The doors that are in place are the original doors. They've been slightly modified over the years. The top panel, this one-time glass, I believe, has been pulled in with like a wood sheet at some time. Can I go to the PowerPoint real quick? Go to the south side of Shenandoah, Shaw. This is a close-up shot of the entry door. As you can see, it's a contemporary door. You can see on a newer home. It's also smaller than the original doors. You can see it's been blocked down to incorporate a smaller stock door. On the right, again, is the original door. That's a shot from Google Earth showing the original doors. So they're painted to the current colors. Again, you can see what's there prior. It's the neighboring building next door. Also has the same doors. But so the glass inside of it. And if you go back to this one, you can still see that there's a kind of a laurel wreath swag detail in the floor panel. So it's kind of nice that the doors are still in place to have all that detail. The owners live in the area, the same neighborhood, and have got permits for work on their house. So, they were aware that, permits are needed for things within the historic district. Looking at the Shaw specifically, under detail, it says that, new doors should match the same vertical portions and style as original. Obviously, this is a new contemporary door. This is not this style built. We know it's there, we know it's contemporary, therefore it's not style. I do have a letter of support for the staff positions from Sean Spencer, the Tower Grove Everett Community Health Corporation. There's the Shaw Everett Group these days. So under that record, Shaw may support staff recommendations. I do have the letter from the applicant. I think they're going to go over this. I'll just direct it if you have it. I can still type up that information. Testify. So again, given the information that I've presented before, staff recommends that the board uphold the instruction denial of the application to retain entry door and install 3 other doors as they do not comply with the Shaw Everett Local Authority standards.
Questions on this side? Thank you. Okay, we need the appellants. You are welcome to arrange your presentation any way you care to.
Thank you. Can I plug in a PowerPoint?
Yes.
Over there?
Yeah,
over here?
We have...
It's an iPad, isn't it?
We can try it. Wonderful.
Commissioners, we're going to take a 60-second break for technology.
Is that a commission?
No, it has to be the yeah, I don't think we're able to use. Yeah, we don't have that kind of. Two by the read off your chat. Yes, ma'am. You should go out to the bill. That's a big better. Okay.
But I'm going to turn it off anyway.
Sounds good.
So I can read my notes. Thank you. Thank you for giving it a try.
Commissioners, we are back in session. You're on the record.
Can y'all hear me?
Very well.
My name is Linda Oriana, and I've got to say we love living in Shaw. And we chose this neighborhood because of its historic value.
Before you begin your testimony,
Is there?
let's take the record. Tell me your address, please.
Oh, where we live is 3630 Flad Avenue.
Is your testimony going to be the truth?
Absolutely.
Okay. Have you introduced everything that you want to into the record?
Yes.
Okay. And you, sir, are you also an appellant?
Yes.
What is your name?
Joe Orellana,
And your address?
3036 flat. 3630 flat, I'm sorry.
Will you be testifying?
So help, no, only if called upon.
Okay. In case you are, will your testimony be the truth?
So help God.
Continue.
Thank you. So, Flad and Shaw neighborhood. And we do appreciate the work that this board does. It is incredible. So we bought that house on Flat. We've lived there for 8 years. We love it. It's right behind the Griffin Gate. And that appealed to me because my name is Griffin. And anyway, that's just a tiny bit of background on who we are and why we're there. My husband came from Baldwin. I came from New York. It just seems to be the logical compromise. We bought this building literally at a markdown. It had sold in 2003 for $180,000. It sold again in 2014 at $120,000. And no, I'm not mistaken about those numbers. Then it sold again in 2014 when we bought it, literally at a distress sale for $105,000. I honestly think he would have taken $95,000. But we bought this building as is, and that is how we can afford to do this kind of investment. I think this is our 8th building in the city that we have purchased and that we pay taxes on. And it just never in 1,000 years, and we do know about variance zoning and facades of buildings and such. Thank you. We've been educated a lot on that in recent years. But to replace a door, it never occurred to us that we had to call anybody to replace a door or to apply for a permit. I wish that I could show you these pictures in color. These are photographs of what the interior of the remaining doors look like. They are worm-eaten, they are bug-torn, they are molded, they are rotted, they will not hold hardware. It does have a little gold emblem thing on the front of it, but it also has plastic decals that have been plastered on there as well. Locks won't hold, deadbolts won't hold. If you were to push one real hard, you could get it open. That panel in the middle, I think that used to be glass, that looks like the doors in the building next to us. That glass panel has been kicked in and broken out, apparently, and a piece of plywood stuck in there with not putty, but caulk, and then painted over, and the caulk is molded, and it's falling apart. So, and what you see on the bottom of the door is actually the threshold. If you could get a real close-up of that, you would see that the door on the right side is wooden and rotted and was next on our agenda to be replaced. That may not happen. So we found this door, and again, in consideration of what was happening in the neighborhood, we didn't count the doors, but I drove the block, Shenandoah, and then came around the block where that ice cream place is. Thank God I'm by that place. Came around that ice cream place, then back up the street on Cleveland. So I got the adjacent block, and I looked at doors along the way, and I saw amazing, beautiful doors. Most of them look like the ones that we are replacing. Truly, the one next door to us looks like that old style there. The door that's in the middle, the picture in the middle, is identical to the door that we have installed. It is fireproof. It's a steel core door. It has, it provides insulation. The other door, you could actually see, if you were on the inside of the building looking at the door, you could see a flat of light coming through the side as well as underneath it. And we can't rent, these are rentals, but we can't rent a place that looks like that. We can't, the doors, in my husband's opinion, and I can only occur with him because he's my husband, but it did not seem to be repairable, at least not with our level of expertise, which is why we went for the new doors. In also looking at the neighborhood and in an adjacent neighborhood, I found doors that you have allowed a variance on that are new replacement doors. I don't know what the public record is. This is on McRae Avenue, there behind that little restaurant. These were all architecturally redone with green consideration and I don't know what all, but of course. I did not include...
That's North I-44 Historic District. You can see those as well.
One more time.
About the North I-44 Historic District is referring to. Not in Shaw.
Gotcha. But even these stores that I'm looking at are more, I would see they're keeping stores and fuel. Yeah.
I mean, that's comparable to what...
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Comparable to what you're submitting.
I mean, this is, yeah.
Those are actually probably appropriate historic replacement doors at some point in time. That's not anything like what's being proposed.
So, I'm sorry to get all of it. So, this kind of door would be allowed?
The difference here is we know what they're historic. We have the examples here. New doors have to look like what was there originally. So, placing it with that kind of door would not be standard. There would be no protection. That's sorry to say it.
So you're saying it has to be a photocopy of that thing?
We've had these met with them. I think that's met with them as well. We've gone through standards of what needs to be done. We can make a quick replace their doors. It has to look like what was there before. For the technical met with the applicant,
For the public record, that replacement door has to be a photocopy of that.
And it looks like
identical.
If you match the proportions and the style of the door that is there.
The proportions and the style of the door, I've got it.
Proportions and style.
Okay. The last, and I guess the last point that I want to make, when we visited with Mr. Bettis before, he said it carried a lot of weight if we were owner-occupied. We are not owner-occupied, but my son, he's not the owner, I am, but my son does live in that building. And so we're owner-family occupied. I don't know what else to say. This is kind of my hobby, but it's my husband's job.
Our intent in rehabbing this building is not necessarily to thumb our noses at anybody. It's basically to take a property that, for all intents and purposes, was a derelict property. It is, you can go up to Tonti Avenue, and buildings like these, the city has, they just torn them down. Blighted. This place in a couple of years was on that path. It was down to one occupant. We now have 2 occupants, and we're fixing another apartment in order to rent it out and make it a viable, contributor to the community. It's a beautiful street. It's a place that everybody would love to live. But at the same time, we have to keep the costs reasonable. I mean, we can't, to replicate a door like that, that's eaten, that the sides of them have been busted in multiple times, but you have a door frame that is, pieces of wood are pieced together in order to make a door frame. And to go through the expense of maybe coming up with something historical just because the rules say that, up to a certain point, that's kind of like saying, forget about dereliction. We want the right thing in there. Let it go derelict, because we don't care about that. We care about it looking pretty. And I care about it looking pretty, but I also want to make it viable at an affordable cost.
Do you bring any financial?
In terms of what, sir? What kind of finances do you want?
Cost of either repairing or replacing the door.
Well, you have to weigh not only the door, but the rest of what the building needs, okay? The building needs kitchen, it needs, all the plant needs to be
From the project budget.
Oh, no.
We're talking about replacing floors, we're talking about bowed flooring, we're talking about ceilings that have fallen down, and all of a sudden the priority has to go to a door. It seems unreasonable, sir.
Do you have the project budget?
No, I don't.
Is there any more to your presentation?
No, Mr. Collins, we will not waste your time.
Shoot.
Yes.
Questions for them? Questions on this stuff? Thank you very much. Anything about motion? Yes.
With the preservation board, I hold the director's denial, I mean, the shop.
Second.
Discussion?
I can appreciate that the door that he put in is a lot less expensive than more of the wired, but there's ordinances and quality of the neighborhood. I mean, I can get the doors you showed you on the handout. A lot of those are historic doors, even the ones that have oval, but they're not really doors. So, like that, the original doors are there, we know what they look like, and replacement doors.
May I ask, could there be a variance?
We are done with discussion. Okay.
Well, yeah.
Usually cat and dog down there.
So what's the need to do something about this?
No, that's Owner? Okay. Commissioners, have the motion on the floor to uphold the staff denial made, seconded, and discussed. Call the roll. Alderman Kennedy, yes or no? Commissioner Wright, yes or no? Yes. Commissioner Johnson, yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Bissentiner, yes or no?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson, yes or no?
Yes.
That is 5 yeses. Staff denial is upheld. Commissioners, is there any other business? Hearing none, and the no objection is then adjourned. Thank you. Nice to see you guys.
Do you have any questions, Joe?